Well, Vince,
Lots
you do have another show to do yet today.
Whatever. Let's go.
Are you ready for rapid fire?
Oh, I've been waiting for rapid fire. Let's do it, baby.
I like how you try to downplay it. I like that. I like that. So we're going to start with Marcus Freeman talking a little bit about Riley Leonard. Well, maybe we're not.
Uh-oh.
Of course, is that the one that I... Hang on just a second here. Let me see if I can find it. Do you see anything there in the...
Negatory.
Nothing in the chat that you want to talk about here for a second?
Oh, in the chat.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what we got here.
Because I'm finding it. I'm digging it out of this folder here. So
Anthony says he hopes Marcus Freeman allows the defense to play wide open all the time and is not the first sign of having a double lead in the second half and goes all conservative on offense. So, yes, he does let the defense do their own thing. There's no doubt about it. And the thing about the offense, they did go a little bit more conservative. Now, there were extenuating circumstances for that as well. Health of the quarterback was definitely one of them. I think they had a brush with, oh crap, we can't let Riley get hurt. And I think there's part of that, right? And so I think they did go a little bit conservative at that point. But I agree. I mean, I didn't like some of the play calling in the second half when it came to offense. But you have to remember, when you take Riley Leonard out of this offense from a running standpoint, okay, the running game is not going to be as good because they can key on those running backs. That's why Riley Leonard being a running threat is so important. We got a visual of what it would be like if there is a quarterback in the game who is not a running threat like Riley Leonard with the way that this team is currently constructed. If it's just a kind of an old-fashioned running game and, sit in the pocket throw, like that kind of a deal, like the running game is not as effective when Riley Leonard is not somebody that they have to key on. And we saw that because they weren't going to run Riley Leonard after he got hurt or after he fell on the ball kind of a deal, right? So
yep.
I think we got to see something that we needed to see, to be perfectly honest with you. This team needs a healthy Riley Leonard to win games.
Absolutely. How much of a fully healthy Riley Leonard we're going to see, I don't know. This bye week will be nice, though. And then the fact that you have a bye week coming up, maybe that's like where Riley Leonard is considered. And some of these other guys, since you do have so many injuries, maybe it's because I wasn't like a huge fan of the two byes coming into this season, but where they are right now.
You are now.
Going into October, coming out of October, you're going to have bye weeks.
Yeah, so, and that's going to be huge.
Course, yep. He went down after a 305-pound Louisville defensive lineman came down on him at the end of a run in the first half. And here's what Freeman said about it.
Play I went out, got the wind knocked out of me, which is kind of soft. Like, it's weird saying that now. You got to go out for a play to get the wind knocked out of you. But, like, that was terrible. Like, I couldn't breathe. So, it was really no problem after, a couple minutes. But, it's a bad feeling getting that wind knocked out of you. So, it really didn't play an impact on me.
Well, you can see I'm struggling with my sound bites right now, Vince, but that was Riley Leonard talking about it.
That was appropriate, though. That's what we were talking about.
Have you ever had the wind knocked out of you before?
Not to that degree. I've never had a 300-plus pound guy fall on top of me when the ball was in my stomach. That's for sure. I've had like a shoulder stinger, like stuff like that, but never the wind knocked out of me. I've seen it a bunch of times, though, and guys are grasping for air. Like, you can't breathe, and you, of course, start freaking out and, assume the worst at that point. And that's why you go to the ground and you get help, right? And it takes a second to kind of get over something like that. Have you had that done to you?
It has been, probably since I was a kid, where I could, because like by the time I was in high school, I was not, I never got to carry the football. And it seems like usually what happens is like, you come down basically like Leonard did, like with your sternum or the ball right underneath your sternum or right around that area, right, and you come down on it. And then especially, again, when you've got 305 extra pounds coming down, like that's when you have that happen. So, like you said, it's been a long time, and never to that extent as well. I've seen stars plenty of times, whether it was football or wrestling or, whatever it happened to be. Saw plenty of stars, but the wind knocked out to be, like you said, especially not like that. Like he looked like he was in some serious pain.
Well, it was, let's be honest, it was an illegal play. That's unnecessary.
I was shocked because he was already down. I was shocked that you're not supposed to be able to, as a defensive lineman, just come down with your body down on top of quarterback like that. Yeah.
It was way after the play was over. Way after.
Yep. So here's Marcus Freeman on Leonard staying in the game.
He's banged up. We ran him. We knew we were going to have to run him. Tough guy, man. He is tough. Sacrifices his body. I think I think he might have got kneed in his thigh or something like that. I don't know exactly what it was, but he said, "I'm good. I'm good to go. I want the ball in my hands." And so that's the competitor he is, man. He's a tough person, man.
Fill in the blank. Riley Leonard's toughness, Vince, that you heard Marcus Freeman talk about is blank.
Expected from him. Like I expect him to be that guy almost to a fault. And I was just thinking to myself as I was listening to that soundbite, there's a fine line as a head coach where you throw the guy back out there, because he's telling you that he's good, but then also knowing your guy and knowing when it's probably time to not send him back out on the field. Now, I don't think that Riley Leonard has gotten to the point where he couldn't go back out on the field. I think, Marcus Freeman has made the right decision both times, or, all the times that it looked like he got a little dinged up, but it may come to a point somewhere in the season where you have to make the hard call. And even though he's asking to go back in, you're like, you know what? That's not
save that because we'll be talking about that here in just a minute.
Okay.
But to me, like what we've seen from Riley Leonard so far, it's like, you knew this guy had a level of toughness, but it's like we've seen Rocky Balboa level toughness so far from Riley Leonard. And I know you're not into boxing. I know you're not into the Rocky movies and all that kind of stuff, Vince. So you'll have to bear with me here a little bit. But he just takes a beating and keeps coming at you. That's what's amazing from what we've seen. It's like when Rocky's got his face pounded in, which happened basically in every Rocky movie, like to kind of give you the cliff notes, since again, you've never bothered to actually watch some of the greatest cinematic excellence in sports movie history. It's like his eyes are all swollen and puffed shut, and he's like, he's sitting there and he's like, "Mick, I can't see. You got to cut my eye." And Mick takes the razor blade and cuts his eye open. Like that's Riley Leonard, what we've seen from him so far. And you could talk about passing and accuracy and whatever else, but like just what think about what we knew about Leonard's injuries, like just when he came here with the foot and the ankle, and we were worried about that. And so far, like that hasn't been an issue at all. He's like every other part of his body has been beaten up so far, and then like 5 games, and he's not a big guy either. That's what, like when you see him, like when he was doing the post game and when you stand next to him, he's obviously tall, but he's very slender. He's built like a shooting guard, like he just keeps a licking and keeps on ticking. It's really pretty amazing. Just the high level, again, like you knew this guy was going to have some toughness to him, but it's been above and beyond, I think, everything that we've seen from this guy in just 5 games.
Yep. No doubt about it. And he long line of tough quarterbacks, right? Jack Cohn gets his finger dislocated in a game. And these kids want to play, and that's what they're here to do. And I freaking love it.
Cinderella Man is a better.
Boy,
come on,
here we
Steven.
go.
How many sequels to Cinderella Man did they make, Steven? The answer is 0. Okay. So anyway, Freeman fielded a question, kind of touching on a little bit what you were talking about with the Riley Leonard injury, like staying with Riley Leonard. I left the question in there. So here we go.
Until Riley got a little banged up there in the second quarter, he was probably playing his best football of the year. How fine is the line between, staying with him, knowing that things are a little bit limited offensively, or did the 2-score lead in the defense just dictate the approach that you took in the second half?
Yeah, I mean, after the first half, I think we were up 24-14. I thought our offense played lights out the first half, so there was no even consideration of changing quarterbacks going in the second half. We didn't have a lot of success in the second half, and I always say you're gonna blame the quarterback. That's what you do. You're supposed to, right? And you're gonna blame the head coach. That's what you're supposed to do. That's why we're in these positions. But we'll go back and see what decisions Riley made in the second half that weren't good. But damn it, he played really well in that first half. Our whole entire offense didn't play great the second half, and so it's easy to point the finger at Riley. But I'm proud of the way he performed today and led our offense to victory.
So what do you think, Vince?
I think he did a good job of shutting down that question, frankly. I didn't like the question, but then again, I generally don't like those kinds of questions. And he, Marcus Freeman's exactly
like the way
right.
it was worded just surprised me, I think.
Well, it was the same person that asked the last question about why didn't you listen to the crowd and take out Riley Leonard? Like,
right.
Those are terrible questions. I'm sorry. Those are bad questions. Why are you harping on why the starter is in the game? Why is that even a line of questioning? I'm sorry.
Right. And I mean, if all he did was get the wind knocked out of him,
right? That's not an injury.
Right back to him. Yeah.
That's not an injury.
Right. I was a little surprised as well. Like it just felt like, especially when you piggyback it with the question from last week about the crowd sentiment said they wanted a change at quarterback and why you stuck with it. And it just, I don't know. I'm pleased to be, I think.
I'm going to save that for off the air, what I wanted to say.
I respect the person asking the question quite
Me too.
But I texted you at the time and I was scratching my head as to that angle on the question, You're muted.
Oh, that's because I was typing. I was typing to you what I wanted to say.
Okay.
I just feel like it's probably not smart to say it out loud.
Gotcha. Some people are asking who it is. I left the voice in there. I'm not gonna call it out. I'm not gonna name names. So I'll let you guys and gals kind of work that angle on your own. So Freeman fielded a question about staying with, we just did that one. Max Hurleman, a little bit of a surprise out there. Grad transfer from Colgate, took over the punt return job Saturday afternoon.
Decision came about in practice this week when we were game planning against our punt unit. We wanted to be aggressive, and we knew we could probably get the op time to be affected by our aggressiveness, and we thought Faison would give us the best chance to, maybe get back there and block a punt. But Max has shown us that he's reliable, will catch the ball, and will be aggressive. And so he did a really good job stepping up today.
So, Vince, what do you think about Hurleman moving past Jordan Faison and Jaden Greathouse to take over that punt return job?
Love it. Absolutely love it. That'll be the one thing that he's going to focus on. Obviously, he's on some other special teams as well. But I love it. I think he's aggressive with it. I think that he has good hands. I mean, he literally got interfered with on that one fair catch and still caught the ball. And I like the fact that he questioned the ref as to why he didn't throw the flag. Like, I have no problem with that. So I think this is a great move. He's punt returning.
And he should have thrown the flag. Like, what is going on out there? Like, 100%. How are you standing that close and you don't see that guy run into him? Like, unbelievable.
And the other piece of it is he's also the up man now on kick returns too. So he's back there for both return games. And I think it's great. I think it's great because look, Faison has proven that he's a little injury prone, right? So let him focus on just being an offensive player, and Greathouse is an offensive player too. Let him just do that. This is great. I think it's great.
I do too. And look, this is something that I think that fans kind of got tired of a few years back, when you would see It's like, what, why don't they have somebody better back there, returning punts? Why don't we have big punt returns and all that kind of stuff? I mean, this was a guy who was an All-Patriot League special teams ace at Colgate, and it's part of why Marty Biaggi wanted him to come here to Notre Dame, and he's been on a lot of Notre Dame special teams. And of course, we get the Bronx cheer from Joe. Fair catch, you. Look, the most important aspect, in any special teams coach is going to tell you this, and every head coach is going to tell you it as well. The first most important thing about being a punt returner is securing the damn ball. You have to catch the ball before you can think about going anywhere with it. Obviously, that was an issue last week. And then, hey, look, he only got one return because he did have the fair catch. He should have been interfered with. There should have been some yards added on to it. But, like the one return that he had, he made a nice little wiggle move. I don't think this guy is just going to be a stand back there and fair catch it guy. Like he's going to want to go, but he's got the number one priority down, and that's secure the football. So I love it. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Love it quite a bit. Do you buy or sell Jadarian Price and Devyn Ford riding the bench the rest of the game after their fumbles on Saturday?
I don't mind the Devyn Ford one, but I don't like the Jadarian Price one. I don't know if that's fair.
You're going to say more talent should get some leeway.
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, look, it rules are fair. They're not equal. Okay, that's how rules work. Okay,
I get you.
That's I think that
Audric Estime paid the price more than once, right?
Right. And here's the thing: Devyn Ford didn't get benched. He still played on other special teams. He just wasn't returning the football.
But he wasn't allowed to touch the football because you needed his body out there to play some of those special teams.
I wanted Jadarian Price's body out there too. So
yeah, but are you going to trust him to carry the football? Like I remember a certain head freshman football coach and running backs coach one time when a certain fullback fumbled in a game. Like I know he played, same thing. He played the rest of the game on defense because you needed him out there, because you needed a middle linebacker out there. Do you remember that, Jadarian? Do you remember that, Jadarian? But what did he do? Personal. What did he not do? He didn't carry the football the rest of the game, but he played defense out there because you still need him on defense. It's
pretty sound coaching. It's pretty sound coaching. But the running back,
no problem with it.
Yeah, the running back.
You're fine having your leading tackler out there on the other side of the ball. You just don't want him carrying the ball as a fullback.
But whoever that head coach was, the running back on that team ended up going D1. So I feel pretty good about that guy still carrying the football a lot too.
Oh, we're writing it off now. That was the last carry of young Jesse Steyer's career.
Was it really?
He did have a pick six. He did have a reception. You actually moved him to tight end later.
Yeah, he had that reception, the one-handed
snag over the middle. Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. That was the last time he carried the football the rest of the year. Still played linebacker, still did all the other stuff.
I may have to post the highlight video from that season on the board sometime just for fun. It's a bye week, right? They can watch
just so everybody can see number 5 do his thing out there. The little middle
Jesse
linebacker running around,
doing his thing. Yes, absolutely. And with the people don't understand, Sean, how good they had it back then, because I had you to do the play-by-play of the highlight reel, right? Because I put it together, and then I went over to your house, and I'm like, hey, here's what happens in this play, and you just gave it your all.
Cranked it out.
Man, it was beautiful. It's beautiful.
We had fun.
It's the best
we had
highlight
fun
film
doing that.
Ever. Yeah, we did.
Well, you had me do one for the freshman team the year before too, and I didn't even know most of those guys. So
exactly, and that team was 1-8. So you made them look like freaking world beaters. That's for sure. That's what a highlight video does.
But that group and Jesse's group and
the group after
the group after them turned in the best season of Adams High School football
Ever.
since I think it was, like I was going to say at
Pretty
least
much
since
ever.
1986, I think, something
Yeah.
like that. By
And
the
Anthony
time
Johnson, who
by the
went to
time your
Notre
first
Dame.
freshman group that went 1-8 were seniors,
Yep.
and Jesse and Shaq and were juniors, and Pinter was a sophomore, and tons of other guys out there. But
right,
best season of Adams football. In
I like to say the foundation was built their freshman year. Just saying.
Hey, just saying. Yeah, I think everyone needs to save up and remind.
Yes.
Remind Jesse about that. He'll have some excuse about, well, I should have this and Bobby should have that. And,
The fumble did not make it on the highlight video. I know that's shocking to everybody.
I'm sure it didn't. I'm sure it didn't. So Steven says, buy or sell Josh Burnham moving to Vyper, and we see Bryce Young at strong side.
It's definitely possible. I mean, I could see them kind of jockeying some things around because of injury, depending on what the outcome of the Boubacar Traore injury is, that kind of thing. You could, because now I think you're lopsided at one position versus the other. So it's definitely a possibility, but we're going to have to wait and see kind of what those injuries are. You're getting Gabe Rubio back. I know he's in the middle, but still it has to do with your defensive line. So I am very interested to see kind of what they do in the offseason with both lines, or not offseason, bye week.
Yeah, I mean, because of Botelho and Boubacar being out, and the fact that Burnham there's major depth issues there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think if Burnham comes back healthy, he's your best option on the strong side. I think he could give you some flexibility to play both, depending on situation and stuff like that, and who else you would want. I mean, Oben had a little bit better day, I felt like, Saturday, but
still, he's not doing.
If you move Burnham over to Vyper, then what are you going to do? You've got to have some other bodies over there on the strong side, and right. I think that you can. There's some linebacker flexibility, and I know Brian has talked about Zinter, like moving Zinter there potentially. Maybe that happens. What's going to happen with Brennan Vernon? I don't know. And I saw in the Champions Lounge, like, people were asking about guys like Vernum and Armel Mukum and stuff like that. And Marcus Freeman's been asked about those guys earlier in the year. I mean, it was within the last 2 or 3 weeks, and he basically said they're not ready right now. And that was, I think, talking more about nose and 3 technique than necessarily playing outside. But this bye week could be really huge in terms of being able to experiment with some of that and see who could be a fit. Because at the very least, I mean, like, think about it this way. You're only, like, think about that list of injuries that we went through. You're only 5 games into the season. So you're not even halfway through the season right now. Nobody wants to see more injuries, but at the very least, you've got to build some depth there, because, like, just the way things have gone so far, who knows what the end of November and into December is going to look like at this point.
So true. So true.
Yeah. Going back, Connor said, how many good sequels to Rocky did they make? Again, it's like, you guys want to just shoot these darts right here at my heart on this Rocky stuff. All but Rocky 5, I would say, are quality sequels, because even though Rocky 2, slower than Rocky 1 for most of it, in the storyline with Adrian in the hospital, it was like, it seemed like it drug on forever, but you got the payoff in the end with the rematch with Apollo, and that's where Rocky and Apollo's friendship is forged, and then that rolls into Rocky 3. I mean, come on, Clubber Lang and Thunder Lips and the whole crew, and then Rocky 4, Ivan Drago, USA versus the Soviet Union. Come on, like, peak Cold War, right before the Cold War ends. Rocky 5, Tommy Gunn, brutal, miserable. And that's why Rocky came back, what was it, like 12 or however many years later, and made Rocky Balboa, solid quality sequel there. And then if you include the Creed follow-ups, I'd say at least the first 2 Creed movies. So, like, you're talking about around 6 good sequels to Rocky. So,
wow, 6. All right.
Sure thing, Steven. No problem. Try to get him as much as possible. But, yeah, Rocky 5 was horrible. Rocky 5, like, it might as well not exist. Hold it. What? Joe says the only good Rocky film was Rocky 5. Stop with the propaganda. Like,
somebody's coming at you hard now. I like it.
I'm looking at this photo. Is that Sloppy Joe? Like, did you change? Because I saw the photo on the Champions Lounge, and I think the champion, like, it looks like the guy in this photo.
Oh boy.
Right here. So yeah, that's me, he says. It all makes sense. Listen to Guar, Tommy Gunn fan. Rocky 5.
You want to answer
Okay.
Holtz my beer?
Where is he? Yep. Vince, best mafia movie.
Goodfellas for me. Goodfellas is
Goodfellas.
so good. Yeah.
I think I've only seen Goodfellas once.
Goodfellas.
I've never been
good.
huge in, like, you probably never saw Sopranos, did you?
No, because it was an HBO, and and it was no.
See, but I've never seen that either, because I've just never been like deep into the mafia kind of.
Yeah, Donnie Brasco, Tommy says is a good one. I
I've
remember
seen
seeing that
that.
one in
I've seen
the
that.
theaters. I have never had an opportunity to sit down and just watch the Godfather, movies. Like, just sit down and watch them. I know lots of parts of them and, like, that kind of stuff, but I need to one of these days I need to just sit down and just watch them for all of their glory.
I'd like to do a Sopranos watch sometime, because I've got the Max app and all that stuff.
There you go.
And I never watched it the first time. And, obviously it's one of those, like, a lot of people consider it one of the best TV shows ever.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
Find your lost, Vince, because why?
That's right.
They got their honor back, Penny.
I need to do that.
They got their honor back. Garrett, buy or sell. Al Golden delivered a top 3 coordinator performance in the country this weekend. At one point in the game, Notre Dame was down to their top 3 corners and top 3 edge rushers. I'll buy all the way.
I'll buy that.
Because we went, we went through the litany of injuries and the fact that you, as you just said, you piece the secondary together. You're without your top 3 edge rushers, and you come out with a day like that. Yeah, you gave up some yards, you gave up some points.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you got the win.
As Brian will, I believe, go into detail tonight, he thinks it was a little bit by design. So take that for what it's worth.
So similar, kind of like what I was saying, maybe similar to the Miami game plan. Like, you would concede maybe some rushing yards by trying to limit the big passing plays as much as possible.
Which is what they have done so well. Yep. I believe so.
That's kind of what I wanted, and again, like, they gave up over 100 rushing yards in the first half. They only ended up giving up, what was it, 131 in the game?
Yeah.
And, again, like, they gave up
the big minus on the punt snap deal.
Yeah, that helps.
That's
that
major.
helps.
But still, your point is still taken. They also, the quarterback run and the big minus on the punt kind of cancel each other out, in my opinion, because they were almost the exact same amount. Because I think the punt was like 42, or the punt play was 42, and I think the run was like 46. So they kind of cancel each other out a little bit. That's the way I look at it, because Notre Dame ended up with the football at the end of both of them. So I still think the yardage is pretty much where it should be.
Joe says, isn't that hat tip to the secondary coach? Of course, Mike Mickens getting, having a true freshman ready to play.
It's also a hat tip to the defensive line coach as well. But it's
Fair
still
point.
Al Golden's operation. So
right. Garrett says the best mafia movie is The Departed. I will say that of the genre, that's my favorite, even though, like, Jack Nicholson in that was a little bit. Have you seen The Departed?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh, you haven't seen The Departed?
When did that come out?
Would have been close to 20 years ago, like 05-ish, 06 maybe, something like that.
Okay.
It's got Leo DiCaprio, Alec Baldwin, Matt Damon,
2006.
Mark Wahlberg, Jack Nicholson. You've
Oh,
got
wow.
to watch. You've got to watch The Departed if you get a chance. Won an Academy Award. Scorsese won the Academy Award for it.
Yeah, lots of
It's
famous.
funny
famous
that
people. Wow.
it's funny that I'm not the mafia guy, and you've seen all this other mafia stuff, and that's the mafia movie that I've watched, and you haven't. So
I was very busy in 2006 trying to make sure that my wife would still marry me.
You mean stay married to you?
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Because 06 is when she was pregnant. That's why I didn't go to the movies.
Wasn't that the Glue Factory years?
It might have been. It's right up there. Yeah. So it's a dark time. It's a dark time for me.
You held it together.
Yeah. Oh, it's a ching.
Pun
Yeah.
intended.
Where is it?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Get the bell on that one.
All right, we're going to finish on this one tonight unless we get any more questions that come through. We haven't even talked about this, and I'm surprised no one's brought it up. Irish defensive back Jordan Clark drew a personal foul flag in the second half for headbutting Louisville player Chris Bell. Ryan Roberts, who of course is part of our post-game show, used to be here full-time at IB, but he's working for A to Z Sports now. He tweeted that the Irish needed to get Jordan Clark off the field for the rest of the game. So Clark's dad, Ryan Clark, who of course is a former NFL defensive back himself, tweeted back at Ryan, quote, "Maybe when a player spits in your face, you'll react better. I'm glad that's all he did," end quote. So, Vince, this entire thing, the spitting, headbutting incident, where do you stand on all this?
I stand on, I don't care what he did to you. You can't do that. You cannot retaliate like that. You can't. I'm not condoning the spitting. Obviously, it's terrible, and I think Louisville was pretty dirty most of the day. But you cannot headbutt a guy like that in that moment because you were about to get off the field at that point, and you gave them new life. Cannot do that. You cannot do that. That could have lost them the game.
Is this worse than what Adon Schuler did, flipping the ball? I think it is.
I definitely think
you're on the field and you headbutt a guy.
Yep.
Look,
yep.
Second guy always gets caught. Like that's something, Ryan Clark, Jordan Clark, anyone who's played football, anyone who's played sports, you retaliate, you're going to get caught. It's like, how many times do you see that happen?
Especially like that.
Game?
How about you retaliate between the whistles?
And that's, because like the first guy spit, so he didn't even punch or shove him. The first guy spits, which is
terrible.
It's repulsive. No one's condoning that.
No.
But one guy spits and the other guy throws a headbutt. I mean, it's like, is this Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik, or what's going on here?
Right. It's terrible. It's terrible.
I actually had it happen at a youth practice once when I was a kid. We were probably 11, 12 years old, something like this. And somehow, like me and this dude on my team, because we're at practice, we kind of started arguing about something. I have no idea what it was about, but we're standing there face to face, and all of a sudden he hucked to us and spits in my face. And, it's like, it didn't end well for that guy. I will say that. But
that's not in a game where
we were 12 years old at practice. Okay. Yes. We've both played sports, obviously, Vince. We both coached Vince. You just
100%.
Emotion runs high when these kind of things happen. But in terms of, what ranks,
man.
Yeah, in terms of the lowest of lows, spitting in someone's face is right down there. It's like right down there with like twisting an injured guy's leg at the bottom of a pile, or hitting someone's junk at the middle of a pile.
Dirty,
dirty. Yeah.
It's dirty pool.
Yeah, I completely empathize with Jordan Clark, but the game's on the line. You got to find a way to walk away, because the best answer to that is the end of the game when you point to the scoreboard. And obviously there was some of that going on the field as well, even though Marcus Freeman said he didn't see it. You can't retaliate like that.
You can't retaliate.
Completely empathize, but you can't retaliate like that.
Here's the problem with sitting him. You had no more corners. Like, you were out.
Because that's what Ryan was saying. Sit him. Jeff is saying he probably should have sat. Who are you going to play at corner?
Who are you putting in? It would have taken me a while to come down from floor number 9 to come down and take over.
And by the way, Jordan Clark was playing a hell of a game. Like every time you turned around, Jordan Clark was out there making plays. He was playing great, which is probably why Chris Bell, they were probably jawing back and forth, and and Chris Bell decides he's going to loogie him. and that's probably why, because Clark was getting the best of him for most of the
Yep.
day, so
there's no better
you
payback
just can't do
than winning.
That's right.
All right. So,
That's right.
and there was bad blood at the end of the game. I'm sure we all saw some of the videos that occurred after the game. It was almost a little bit of a little tussle after the game between Notre Dame and Louisville. And
I missed
Notre
that.
Dame
I was
guys
not watching at all. I guess I was
I
probably
saw it after
walking
the
down.
fact.
Okay.
Saw it after the fact on Twitter. Some people took videos, that kind of thing. And there was a Notre Dame player that probably made a gesture he probably shouldn't have made, and it ticked off a Louisville guy. And luckily, there were some people in there with some cooler heads. So it was clearly a heated game. Let's just say that. But you need to keep your head. You need to keep your head, period.
Yeah. It's just Connor says he'd do the same.
Well, that's fine, Connor. I mean,
America's
then you
Truth
get a
Broker
penalty
says
and
I'm gonna
almost
take
lose the
Clark's word.
game.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's
You can't
the
do it.
problem. You could do the same, but he drew a 15-yard penalty for it.
Yeah,
and
you can't do that. You can't put your feelings ahead of your team. Football is the ultimate team sport. That's it. That's where we're at. So you can say you would have done the same thing, and you are more than welcome to do so, but you are screwing your team at the same time.
Right. I know it's tough sometimes, but you got to keep your emotions in check the best you can.
That's called being
during
an
a game.
adult. So I'm just saying.
Yeah. Again, in no way do I condone Bell spitting in
Not
Jordan
at
Clark's
all.
face, but Clark was playing great. He did play great for Notre Dame. And, that's the kind of thing that, like for something like that. And if an official wanted, he could easily have probably run him from the game.
He probably.
And they needed him. They needed him in the game. They needed him to have his head in the game.
Correct.
Okay, I forgot we got a basketball. We've got more commitments for Micah Shrewsberry.
Oh,
he just keeps reeling them in. 6'11" center, Tommy Ahneman, ranked as the nation's number 58 overall player, number 8 center in the 2025 class by On3. He's a 4-star from Cretin-Durham Hall in St. Paul, Minnesota. Same high school as former Irish football great Michael Floyd. Same school as former Notre Dame baseball closer J.P. Gagne from the 2002 College World Series team. Same high school as Major League Baseball Hall of Famer Joe Mauer. And the beat just goes on for Micah Shrewsberry.
Seriously.
He got Brady Kohler, he got Jalen Harrelson, and he got Ryder Frost, all within, I think, what was it, a 4-day span last week. And now he goes out and he adds another one, Tommy Ahneman, all these top 100 guys. He is killing it right now in recruiting, Vince.
It's awesome. And I love the fact that these kids go to football games, and then Marcus Freeman comes over and daps them all up. And, I mean, they got a good thing going there, man. Like the recruiting at basketball and the recruiting in football, they got a good thing going right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully it just keeps on rolling. Now, these guys are obviously, they're not going to be here this year, but I mean, it's very promising for Micah Shrewsberry. The future is very promising right now. I started this up earlier. I don't know if Jeremy's still with us. He said, I understand I just had a quadruple bypass and a valve replacement 3.5 months ago. If that's the case, if you're not joking about that, and I don't think you would joke about that, I hope you did well. And maybe you just need to sedate yourself during games like Saturday and take it easy as much as possible. But we obviously hope you're doing better, Jeremy. So a lot of fun way things turned out. All right, I'm going to let Vince have about a 20 or so minute break, and then upon further review is going to be coming with Vince and Brian here.
Stay tuned
in just a little bit, so everyone can take their bathroom break and then come back and get ready for another big show tonight as Vince and Brian look back at Notre Dame and Louisville from Saturday. Vince, enjoyed it as always. It'll be a busy week. I'll have you with me basically tomorrow, like the next couple of days, and then Trevor's going to be with me on Thursday, and we are eyeing a special guest on Thursday as well. So we'll have more on that a little bit later in the week when we have a chance. All right, Vince, thanks again. I will talk to you later. Everybody else, thanks for being here. Great input tonight. Thanks for being here. A lot of good stuff in the chat from the live audience and everybody else. Be sure you hit that like button before you leave. We do Greatly appreciate it. And we will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.